I'm Tracy Sable tonight on EWTN News Nightly, reporting for duty. It is President Trump's first full day of his second term in office. We have a report from the White House. March and January. A preview of the annual March for Life taking place Friday in the nation's capital. Catholic Cabinet. A closer look at the faithful tab to take part in the second Trump administration. Plus, see for yourself. A church leader in the Middle East offers an invitation to pilgrims regarding the Holy Land. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Agnes. Our top story tonight, President Donald Trump generates a whirlwind of news during his first full day back in office. This comes after he signed stacks of executive orders on everything from gender ideology to immigration. But it is his pardon of January 6 rioters that quickly created controversy. White House correspondent Owen Jensen begins our team coverage tonight. Owen.
Tracy, good evening to you. The news just keeps coming. Today, the president met with top lawmakers to outline his agenda. He's also working on a big infrastructure announcement. But today for the president, well, it started out just like yesterday, in a church.
President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump arrive at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. to attend the National Prayer Service. President Trump listened as faith leaders appealed to God and prayed for his intercession.
As we mark the transition of political leadership and begin a new chapter in the story of America, may these sacred texts, songs, and petitions from the many faith traditions of our country inspire and challenge us to care for one another.
Meanwhile, President Trump is making headlines with a flurry of executive orders. He signed some Monday at Capital One Arena before taking his seat in the Oval Office and signing many more.
This is a big deal. Merit. Our country is going to be based on merit again. Can you believe it?
The White House says Trump will secure our border, unleash American energy, and establish male and female as biological reality, and protect women from radical gender ideology, while also suspending refugee resettlement and seeking the death penalty as the appropriate punishment for heinous crimes against humanity. But one executive order seems to draw the most attention. President Trump fulfilled his promise to pardon most of the January 6, 2021 rioters who stormed the Capitol building.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon. Yes. Full pardon.
That decision created both joy and outrage.
I have been betrayed by my country, and I've been betrayed by those that supported Donald Trump.
Also tonight, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops released a statement saying it will work with the Trump administration to, quote, advance the common good for all, which will include instances of agreement as well as disagreement. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you, Owen. And the pardon of the January 6 rioters is also drawing ire from Capitol Hill, with lawmakers on both sides criticizing the move. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales has that story. Eric.
Good evening, Tracy. Yes, the pardons basically end the Justice Department's 4-year drive to punish the rioters, including those charged with convicting and assaulting police officers, carrying firearms, and destroying U.S. Capitol property. Democrats are up in arms, saying that it's a betrayal of justice.
The idea that you would pardon people, and you're talking about 20 years or more, and others who literally took flagpoles and beat police officers on January 6th, and his first action is to pardon them, is outrageous.
And it was just a mass pardon for all of them without even looking to see whether those people were rehabilitated and whether they continue to pose a threat to public safety.
Republicans fired back, saying that they're not looking backwards but forward, and claim former President Joe Biden opened the floodgates for pardons.
President Trump did what he said he was going to do. Joe Biden didn't. Joe Biden said he wouldn't pardon his family, said he wouldn't pardon his son, wouldn't pardon his, and wouldn't do the preemptive pardons for January 6th, and then turns around and does exactly what he said he wasn't going to do. President Trump did what he said he was going to. He said, I'm going to pardon the January 6 people. We all knew it was coming.
I think they are blanket. I think there's a lot. I think it's case by case, but Look, I mean, I said this before, and Biden made the most massive use of pardon power that we've seen in history.
But not all Republicans are happy with the decision.
So to me, I just can't agree. I'm about to file 2 bills that will increase the penalties up to and including the death penalty for the murder of a police officer, and increasing the penalties and creating federal crimes for assaulting a police officer. That should give you everything you need to know about my position.
Meanwhile, President Trump's nominees continue to go through the confirmation process. Just this morning, Vice President J.D. Vance administered the oath of office to new Secretary of State, former Florida Senator Marco Rubio. Secretary Rubio called the moment transformational.
President Trump was elected to keep promises, and he's going to keep those promises. And his primary promise when it comes to foreign policy is that the priority of the United States Department of State will be the United States. It will be furthering the national interest of this country.
And those confirmation hearings included President Trump's nominee to be the United Nations ambassador. That's former New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. She faced questions today from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. She is expected to be easily confirmed by the full Senate. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
President Trump vowed to enact mass deportations once in office, and cities across the U.S. are bracing for a number of President Trump's aggressive immigration policies signed last night. And while we have not seen evidence of deportations just yet, White House Border Czar Tom Homan says that ICE agents are taking action.
They know exactly who they're looking for. They know pretty much where they'll find them. So, again, these are well-planned operations. They're well investigated.
And regarding immigration, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops says, quote, the Catholic Church's foundational teaching calls us to uphold the sacredness of human life and the God-given dignity of the human person. This means that the care for immigrants, refugees, and the poor is part of the same teaching of the Church that requires us to protect the most vulnerable among us, especially unborn children, the elderly, and the infirm. And joining us now to talk more about this is Dylan Corbett, Executive Director of the Hope Border Institute, an organization that brings the perspective of Catholic social teaching to the realities unique to our U.S.-Mexico border region. Dylan, great to be with you. I know that you've done a lot of work with the USCCB and the Vatican on immigration. A Catholic social teaching, as you know, stresses the right of a country to regulate its borders, but at the same time stresses upholding human dignity and defending the most vulnerable. From that standpoint, what do you think the potential implications are for these immigration policies?
Yeah, concerning signals early on as we go into the next administration. The administration, of course, during the campaign promised a mass deportation and promised to shut down the border to the vulnerable. That's already happening. We've seen significant action with these executive orders. I can tell you here that in El Paso on the Texas-Mexico border, we're already seeing action. The border is being sealed. Very few people are able to access the border in order to apply for asylum. So I'm fearing that system right now has effectively been abolished. Now, it will be challenged in the courts. We'll see what happens in the coming days and weeks, but they've already taken swift action at the border. On the issue of deportations, you're right. Nation states have an obligation to ensure their borders are safe and that we are not allowing criminals, those who would threaten our safety or our national security to enter into the country. But I think the Church is concerned that these enforcement operations, these mass deportations, mass enforcement operations will inevitably affect our neighbors, people who are in our parishes, who are contributing to our communities, people who contribute to our economy, who serve in the armed forces. There's going to be a lot of collateral damage, and that is something that concerns the Church.
Yeah. Dylan, tell us about who you see there on the border, some of the people that you serve.
Yeah, for years and decades, communities here on the border like El Paso, we've welcomed migrants. We've provided hospitality to people who are fleeing danger, who are coming to our border seeking protection. And the Church has really been on the front lines of this work, providing hospitality, providing legal services, and really just offering a message of good news. This is the work of Christ. This is evangelizing work. And in El Paso, we also have a significant immigrant community that would be affected by something like mass deportations. But these are people who make our community strong. Our community is largely Mexican American, but we are vibrant, we are safe, and because we've been able to provide such a warm welcome to migrants over the years, Migration is part of the fabric of who we are, much like the United States. And that's what makes our community so diverse and vibrant and strong. So these policies, if they're not proportional, they really do threaten our identity as a community, and they threaten who we are as a country, the values we hold as a country, to really be leaders in welcoming those who need help, who are fleeing danger, who are fleeing war, who are fleeing poverty. The United States has always been a country that's benefited from migrants and immigration. We've known how to do it. We're world leaders in this. And so we're concerned that we're taking a real step back in that area right now.
Yeah, and there are a majority of Americans who are really eager to see some sort of comprehensive immigration reform. And there does seem to be, bipartisan support for that. That being said, what do you think needs to be done here, Dylan?
Yeah, I think the polls consistently bear out that Americans want a system that works. We have to manage our borders. We have to have a system of management that is safe, that is humane, that keeps our country and our community safe, that keeps criminals out, but that's also compassionate, that recognizes the humanity of those who are fleeing to our country because they want to be part of a community. And many of these people who are in our pews in our Catholic schools, they're our neighbors. So we want a system that works. Right now, we don't have that system. And Democrats and Republicans have been guilty of not providing that system. We've got to work for reform. We need comprehensive reform. Hopefully, we're able to move in that direction. But at the moment, we're going to be on the defense, providing, working to help our families as we go through these troubling times when we're shutting down the border and engaging in these really indiscriminate deportation tactics that really aren't going to help us at all.
Well, Dylan, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you.
2 are dead and an investigation is underway after a shooting near the Canadian border. One of those killed a U.S. Border Patrol agent. The shooting happened on Interstate 91 in Vermont. A portion of that interstate was closed after the incident. The agent's death was confirmed by the FBI and the acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. One suspect was also killed. More information is set to be released soon. Today on the Senate floor, U.S. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer announced some good news.
After more than 2 years of being unjustly detained by the Taliban, Ryan Corbett from Dansville, New York, is finally free and on his way home. In just a few hours, praise God, Ryan will be back on American soil.
Corbett and another American being held in Afghanistan were swapped for one Taliban member serving a life sentence in the U.S. The deal was brokered before President Biden left office yesterday. Corbett was abducted by the Taliban in August of 2022 while on a business trip. All right, now to Turkey, where at least 66 people are dead and more than a dozen injured after a fire broke out at a popular ski resort. As you can see right here in this shocking video, the blazes reached the top stories of a building, causing guests in panic to climb down from their room using sheets and blankets. Officials believe the fire started in the hotel's restaurant section, but the cause is still under investigation. Turkey's president announced a national day of mourning to be held tomorrow. The wildfires in Southern California are still a major concern as dangerous winds have returned and officials are getting ready for emergencies. Evacuation orders are in place as 2 new wildfires broke out in the Los Angeles area and small fires erupted in the San Diego County. Meantime, LA's mayor issued an executive order to begin cleanup efforts and to protect scorched neighborhoods from toxic ash. And we still have a lot more to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including Israel launches another military operation, but it does not affect the ceasefire agreement. We'll explain. And despite tensions in the region, the Latin Patriarch in Jerusalem has some good news for all Christians. Developments today from the Middle East, including one from the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. But first, Israel has announced a, quote, broad and significant military operation. It is important to note that this happened in the West Bank and the ceasefire only applies to the Gaza Strip. And this comes as Israel's top general steps down. Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi announced his resignation today, citing security failures tied to Hamas's October 7th attack. Halevi is the most senior Israeli figure to resign over the attacks. And joining us now to talk about this issue is EWTN's Alberto Fernandez. Alberto, always great to be with you. First, I want to ask you about the military operation in the West Bank. Even if the ceasefire deal, if it only applies in Gaza, it really is still a delicate balancing act. What's to keep Hamas from relaunching hostilities?
Well, what's going on the West Bank is interesting. It's a kind of a three-part war. It's not only Hamas versus Israel, it's also Palestinian fighters versus Israel, and Hamas fighting other Palestinian fighters. So there's a kind of civil war going on in the West Bank as well. Obviously, there are high-value targets on the West Bank that Israel wants to take out, and there are people launching attacks from the West Bank. So far, people have been able to keep the two Gaza and West Bank separated, but there are many of the same problems, many of the same issues are going on, with the exception of that there's this civil war going on inside the Palestinian territory.
Yeah, Alberto, as we mentioned, Lieutenant General Halevi announced his resignation full 15 months after the October 7th attack. He cited reasons for his resignation, but talk to us about this timing.
Well, the timing makes sense. It's right. There's a ceasefire in Gaza, although a temporary one, a shaky one. There's also a ceasefire in Lebanon. So the tempo of the war has decreased greatly. The Israelis are, exercising the issue of accountability. There was obviously a failure, a tremendous security and military failure on October 7th, and there has to be accountability for it. So I think General Halevi deciding to resign is actually the way things happen. It's the right moment for that to happen.
Yeah, we've seen this new drone footage coming out of Gaza, and it really shows them as, it's complete desolation over there, entire neighborhoods and cities just destroyed. I want to talk about the rebuilding process. I mean, what do you think that looks like? Who's going to do it?
Well, of course, it's shocking and terrible to see those images. Of course, the issue in Gaza has never been money. Gaza was awash in money on October 7th of 2023. The question has been, what is the money used for, and what is the ultimate purpose of ruling Gaza? Is the ruling Gaza to a better life for the people of the Palestinians of Gaza, or is it for it to be a launch pad for an eternal deadly war against Israel? So the money which would come from Gulf states and especially from Qatar is there. The question is, money for what? To what end?
Yeah, and we're going to leave it right there. Alberto, always great to get your insights. We appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, is now inviting Christians to return to the Holy Land on pilgrimage. In a video message recorded from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, the Cardinal expressed his gratitude for the Universal Church's support and prayers. He also urged Christians worldwide to express their solidarity, saying that Jerusalem is safe after the ceasefire, and encouraged them to visit the Holy Land in the near future. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, fighting for the unborn. We are counting down the hours to Friday's March for Life, what you can expect to see this year. Plus, a look at some of the Catholic members set to serve in President Trump's second term. Busy week here at the nation's capital, and it caps off on Friday with the 52nd annual March for Life. This year's theme is Life While We March. And speakers include surfer Bethany Hamilton, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Lila Rose, and New Jersey Congressman Chris Smith, just to name a few. It is an exciting event attended by tens of thousands of people each year. But if you can't be here in D.C. in person, you can watch all of the excitement right here on EWTN. Our live coverage kicks off at 9:30 and it runs through 4 p.m. And joining us now to talk more about the March for Life and the importance of the event is Katie Glenn-Daniel. She is Director of Legal Affairs and Policy Counsel at Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America. Katie, great to be with you today. Let's talk about why the March for Life is so important, even now, more than 2 years after Roe versus Wade was overturned.
Well, the march is more important than ever because we know that even though nearly half of the states have protected unborn babies, half of the states haven't. And when you look at states like Illinois, California, and New York, there are 700,000 American babies each year who are still at risk of being aborted. So we have to keep marching because we have to continue to fight for those babies too.
Yeah, and Kate, we know that SBA Pro-Life America's mission is to end abortion by helping to get national leaders elected who will advocate for life. Tell us why that is so vital.
Well, first of all, because we as pro-lifers, the millions of us who are American pro-lifers, deserve a seat at the table. We need elected officials who represent us. But we also need elected officials who are willing to represent the babies, those who cannot speak for themselves. So as a Floridian, I'm grateful to Governor DeSantis for doing that for me and all Floridians. We are so fortunate to have the incoming administration who will give us that voice that we've been missing over the last 4 years in the Biden administration.
Yeah, and as you just mentioned, Governor Ron DeSantis, that is, he's going to be speaking, as well as Representative Chris Smith from New Jersey. Briefly tell us how they have been change makers on the state and federal levels and really played an integral role in the pro-life movement.
Well, these are two leaders who have never stopped fighting for unborn children and their mothers. If you look at someone like Congressman Smith, he has been here on the Hill for decades, leading the pro-life caucus, making sure that, especially when new freshmen come into Congress, they understand that there is a community of like-minded representatives who are fighting for unborn children and their moms. Nobody did more to protect babies in Florida than Governor Ron DeSantis. He barnstormed the state, fundraising, leading the messaging, and fighting back against the lies in the media and from the Democrats about Amendment 4. And we were successful. We were able to keep our heartbeat law in effect. So these are great voices to speak to the hundreds of thousands of Americans who will be out at the march this week to keep them motivated to fight for unborn babies and their moms.
Yeah, and while there have been tremendous strides, as we know, the fight for life is not over. Talk to us more about that and how SBA Pro-Life America is helping.
Well, first of all, we are so excited to have a new administration, a new Congress, where we can once again support moms and babies with our government. The Biden-Harris administration did everything they could to push abortion into the government and create programs that did not serve moms and certainly did not serve their children. So we're excited for a reset that we as pro-life Americans can fight for our neighbors and can speak to why life is so valuable.
And Katie, we are excited for the March for Life as well. Can't wait to see you there. And thank you so much for coming on. God bless.
Thank you.
And you can join us on Friday for all-day live coverage of the March for Life. We have reporters on the ground and special guests and special reports, as mentioned before, from 9:30 to 4 p.m. And you do not want to miss it. It's such a great event. As we mentioned earlier, Marco Rubio has been confirmed as the new Secretary of State. The former senator from Florida is one of several Catholics set for prominent roles in the second Trump administration. And that includes the new vice president.
So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
Vice President J.D. Vance became Catholic back in 2019. He says he was drawn to the church for the theology, emphasis on family, and social order. He also credits his faith with turning him from a drug-using teenager with anger problems and doubts about God into an accomplished, successful family man, excited about being a Catholic and ready for a place on the world stage.
I'm the only candidate in the race whose values actually align with the Christian teachings on the protection of life, on the protection of the vulnerable, on the dignity of the individual worker. I think it's one of the great takeaways of the Catholic tradition is that you both have a public policy that protects life and also respects the dignity of the American worker. I'm the candidate who's running on those issues.
Baptized by Father Henry Stephen, a Dominican priest in Ohio, Vance has long been considered an advocate for the unborn. During the campaign, he caused concern among some pro-lifers after he said he supports access to the abortion pill mifepristone.
As a Republican who proudly wants to protect innocent life in this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us.
Another prominent Catholic now working in Trump's second administration is former Senator Marco Rubio, who is now Secretary of State. He left the church twice only to return, openly sharing his journey and fighting for religious freedom and the unborn.
We have to ask ourselves as a society, what's the value of human life? And at what stage are we going to protect it? Because we're going to start drawing lines about what kind of human life is worthy of protection and which human life we're not going to protect. You're on a very dangerous, slippery slope.
The nominee for Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, is a Catholic father of 9 children. Before his confirmation hearing on Capitol Hill, he and his family huddled together to pray. These are just a few of the nearly 12 Catholics the president has picked for key positions. And their faith could play a direct role in shaping policy, including on abortion, immigration, and tightly regulating the Food and Drug Administration. And the impact may be felt over the next 4 years and beyond.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.